This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to World Pro Racing. And it is a Saturday night bonanza. Alex Goldschmidt and Nicholas Hilbrand back with you once again. It's double trouble from us this week, isn't it, Nicholas?
Yeah, it certainly is, and unexpected, but very welcome.
Well, firstly, we'd like to say a warm welcome to everyone in Malta watching on TVM Sport, Esports TV, motorsport.tv, and of course, all the World Pro Racing live feeds on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We'd also like to thank Melita, who are powering this stream, visitmalta.com, Gaming Malta, HyperX, Thrustmaster, and newly announced this week, our latest partner here at World Pro Racing. Glad to have AMD on board. So, you're probably wondering, why are we back again for the second time this week? Well, the good thing is World Pro Racing have brought up a new initiative, and that is with the 90 minutes. So for all those endurance racers out there, we are at the 2.722 mile, 4.381 kilometer Hungaroring circuit this very evening. And the format is as follows: 15-minute free practice, 15-minute qualifying session, and then we have an hour and a half's worth of GT3 action. And also, Nicholas, there's a couple of other informations that we've been given according to the server, that there is a mandatory pit stop, tyre change is required, but also the drivers have to do in-game liveries only, which is going to be rather interesting. So we're going to see a lot of what the new DLC has brought to Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Yes, of course, with the 2020 DLC, very nice, of course. First of all, the new tire model, which is a huge change to the 2019 season, of course. The biggest change, of course, being way more solid sidewalls, so the tire doesn't move around quite as much as the old Pirelli tire. But of course, as you said, all the nice new liveries, and it's going to be quite something nice to look at.
Yes, and also in addition to that, there is also a new casual race. And it's not just any track, it's Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari coming up this coming Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. local time in Europe. But also there is the forthcoming third round, the World Pro Racing Sprint Series, taking place next Friday at Brands Hatch Grand Prix. And Nicholas, we've got a lot of the usual suspects. I spot a 35 plus grid entry, so no one has left the grid spare at all this evening. And that's something that's going to be really exciting going into turn one, a very tight right-hand hairpin that sort of expands out into turn 1A. And then Hungaroring, as we all know, especially in particularly like GT racing and Formula One, is a very difficult track to overtake on.
Yeah, definitely. I sometimes compare it to an upscaled kart track because it's just simply... Well, you are always busy. You never really have a long straight. You're just constantly waiting to set up your moves in the tightest spots possible. And honestly, that's what really makes it so entertaining, because half of it is, of course, car control, just following the line as best as you can. But the other half of the driving on the circuit is just constantly pokering against the other drivers.
It is that ultimate strategic battle of GT3 sports car chess that we're going to have here this evening on World Pro Racing. So don't forget, please, if you want to get involved, head to our official website, worldproracing.com. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram. If you are watching on YouTube, why not give this video a thumbs up? And whilst you're at it, hit the subscribe and the notification buttons whilst you're at it as well, as I think we're about to get things underway with qualifying. And here we go on to the track. One of the regulars from our casual races on a Tuesday evening, Tom Otte, is out there in the number 70 Porsche 911. A few new faces as well, but the free practice session will give us an indication of the times. And one of the most surprising things, now Luke Whitehead, who recently won our most recent GT3 casual race on a Tuesday night, Luke Whitehead has decided to switch to the Mercedes. A very, very noble choice there, I must say. But obviously with the new sort of models that are coming in, the GT3 Evo being one of them, along with the Ferrari on the DLC, Nicholas, that's provided a bit of an interesting dynamic, because we've got, I spot on the timing screens on the left-hand side of what you guys and girls are watching at home, 3 Ferraris, but then I count at least 10 Mercedes.
Yeah, overall, I think out of the 2 cars, the Mercedes is the more radical change. And also, I think this is still the normal Ferrari. No, it's actually the Evo. Sorry, I didn't see the fins at the front arrow. Basically, the biggest ways to tell these cars apart. On the Ferrari, it's a little bit more subtle. The splitter got changed a little bit. Now it has these arrow fins on the front that are very well known through stuff like DTM, for example. But the Mercedes is way more easily distinguishable from the former model. The front entry to the radiator, where most of the cooling air for the engine comes in, it's a lot bigger. Then the rear diffuser got changed quite a lot, and just overall a lot of aerodynamics optimization that went into the AMG Evo.
Yes, so we've got drivers joining us like Colin Cunliffe, who I've commentated on before, David Christie from Camber Media Racing. I messaged him on Facebook earlier on. I said, I see you're on the entry list for tonight. He said, yeah, I just want my bit of attention. I said, well, you might get it then. But there's Gergely Kunsabo, obviously from Hungary. We'll know this track a bit like Norby Michelis in the FIA World Touring Car Cup. They'll know this like the back of their hand. There's Steve Johnson, number 85 RDS eSport Lexus. And there is a Mercedes bearing down on the number 85. So Yannick Ruoff, who was with us last time at Misano for the GT3 casual race there, he's currently running in P4. So quite a few drivers. Sam Harrison has decided to come back for more GT3 punishment. He's currently running in ninth place, and he's switched to the McLaren 720S GT3. And also, one of the biggest things is, for those that might have remembered our GT3 casual race at Suzuka, the temperatures were quite hot. 39 degrees track temperature, 30 degrees air temperature. Nicholas, it looks like there's plenty of sunshine. It's a 32-degree track temperature and 24-degree air temperature. So it looks like tyre degradation and also management is going to come into this once again.
Yeah, I think especially at this longer race length, of course, people have a little bit of playing room when they want to do their pit stop, but it's definitely healthy for them that they have to do that pit stop for a tire change, because, well, as I said, this track is constant punishment for the tires. This low speed, mid speed, it's where the tires are needed the most, and when the tires start wearing really, really hard, which can be the case, because when you're just fighting here, you start sliding from time to time, you just get a little bit into the marbles, and the tire temperatures will shoot up. So people really have to look into how they really use their tire advantage here.
There is Luke Whitehead. We did have David Christie on our screens. Christie currently running in 18th position in the brightly coloured, I think nigh on banana yellow with a hint of black Mercedes. There's Carly Adkins in the number 2 Lexus, currently running P7. Running on a 1 minute 45.168 as Atkins crosses the line once again, and currently, gets demoted down to P8. So with 10 minutes to go, the track will evolve, and the last lap time was 1 minute 45.327 from Carly Atkins. So a good form of consistency. Tom Otte currently running at his best in a 144.6s. Last lap from him was 145.549 is the number 70 Porsche 911 GT3R 991-2. Crosses the line, a 1 minute 45.015. And good consistency there from the Porsche. A very, very adept vehicle when it comes to handling, and it should suit the Porsche with its gearing aspect and also how it can handle around the track, Nicolas.
Yeah, definitely. I think. Well, we had this discussion on Tuesday last time, but
yes, we did.
how the dynamics of the cars, how front engine, mid engine, and rear engine affect the overall handling of the car, and we were very, very sad that the Porsche is not the best around Suzuka because of these very long corners, this flowing layout. That is not the case here. The Porsche is one of the best cars around here, I would say, because it has very, very short gearing. As I said, 276 is around the top speed that car reaches when it maxes out the 6th gear. And that speed you just never reaches. So it's all optimized for acceleration. You always have the best of traction with that rear engine. And just generally, with the nature of these corners, they tend to be, well, a lot shorter. Or if they're longer corners, they're a lot slower than at Suzuka. So the Porsche is definitely one of the strong contenders here, but we also see in first and third place right now the brand new Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo.
Yeah, it's the 334 of Mihai Sutianu there, running in the Rinaldi Racing colours, as we have both, we have Mats Valdren back, I think, for more GT3 racing here at the Hungaroring. And at the moment, Mihai comes to a stop, and there is Foch in the number 8 Ferrari, and like you say, yeah, I was quite happy when you mentioned the 3-letter acronym DTM when you were talking about Ferraris, considering DTM goes to a GT3 based format, a series as of 2021. But we still love our GT3s when it comes to GT Challenge Europe and the International GT Challenge. So it's going to look very interesting at the moment. We have now, is that an Aston Martin that I spot in second position? So the Aston looks like that might have a bit of pace around here as well.
Yeah, the Aston Martin also one of the cars that is quite strong around here. And actually, as Sheldon Scott Muscat puts it, on, not pole position because it is still free practice, but first place with the new AMG GT3 Evo. But the new cars all making quite an impact here. Aston Martin, of course, with that turbocharged 4-liter engine, also very nice around here.
So at the moment, Muscat leads in official free practice with just over 7 minutes remaining. Sutianu in second, Corkery, Thomas, Foch, Otti, Kunsabo in 7th, Yannick Ruoff in 8th, Sam Harrison in 9th, and then we've got Otso in the number 710 Lamborghini, running in 10th position. Then it's Atkins, Gomez, Norton, Hanus, Ryler. And then we've got the number 78 Mercedes of, I don't know how you pronounce that surname, that will probably baffle me, but I think it's Esney that's the first name on that, as more drivers moving up and down the order, like a yo-yo on a string. But Muscat in the number 14 Mercedes, one of the regulars at GT Omega Esports. Sutianu in the 334 Ferrari, doing a very good job, currently running P3. Oh, Whitehead's jumped up into second place in the 557 Mercedes. So, and that was a 1 minute 43.8 flat. Brilliant job there by Luke Whitehead. He's shown his hand in the Lexus, but now the Mercedes seems to be a bit of a warning shot across the bow for Sheldon Muscat, I fear, because they're both in the same machinery, and that could really be a good selling point this evening.
Yeah, definitely. I think overall Luke Whitehead, he's very familiar by now with the concept of a front-engine car, and I think for this race he knew that he needed a car that is more agile than the Lexus. The Lexus is, of course, a very strong car. It's very stable. It's very nice to drive just overall. But for Hungaroring, you're going to need a car that is more agile than it, because the Lexus, with its long wheelbase, it's not as happy to turn in a lot of these like smaller corners here. And the Mercedes, with a little bit shorter wheelbase and just overall newly optimized everything, basically, it's a pretty good shout overall for this circuit.
Yeah, Nathaniel Thomas we just saw on our screens there before we quickly went back to Sheldon Muscat. Thomas currently running P4. I think one of the other things, the characteristic long snout of the Mercedes, but then also the short overhang, really does help with regards, as you mentioned, about the wheelbase of the Lexus. as I think the highest placed Lexus at the moment is actually is Carly Atkins in the number 2 Lexus, I think it is, currently running 13th. So the Lexus had a bit of a disadvantage. Muscat absolutely hustling that Mercedes like he stole it. But he's also, you can see how hard Muscat is pushing, and that's one of the biggest things here, because I think he's just going to go on board with Sheldon at the moment. So he's gone down the gears, got into first, but I think he's just giving the other driver in front, the Porsche in front, a little bit of space. So at least he can sort of get the car well up to speed. 4 minutes of the session still to go. And Muscat now will start accelerating, then decelerate, second gear at about 100 kph, taking it as tight as possible. A little bit of back end stepping out there as he powers across the line. Up to fourth gear at about 200 kilometers an hour, down towards turns 1 and 1A. And let's see how brave he is. 247 kilometers an hour on the speedo, dropping from 5th to 2nd. Down to turn 1. And they've just had a brief double waved yellow out there. Into turn 2. Now this is a tight left-hand hairpin, and you can see how he's wrestling with the back end of that car. Into the right at turn 3, so it's a short blast up to turn 4, which is effectively one of the back straights on this circuit. Through into the left at 4, which is a left-hand kink. Oh, he loses a bit of momentum there, down into second. So he's pushing it, Nicholas. I mean, it's great to see that sense of commitment from drivers like Sheldon Muscat, who are absolutely pushing the limits of adhesion.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a lot. Overall, like this driving, it's a lot still just getting used to the new tire model as well. Because, of course, the sidewall, it makes a whole lot of a difference. Simply because the tire just doesn't move around as much on low to mid speed. And you could really see that in turn 3, as he was just entering that corner a little bit faster than the tire really wanted. We could see that with his counter steering. Overall, the tire lasts longer like this, so it can keep up pace a little bit longer. And also, it doesn't really lose that much grip. It gives a bit more of a direct feeling when you're just driving it on the limit. But of course, in extreme situations, it's not going to provide as much grip as... Ooh, that is a little bit of a late pit entry there, Sheldon. As the old tire model.
That's definitely... that's counting your chickens before they hatch, Mr. Muscat, I'm afraid. But in many respects, that's quite a good thing. From his perspective, that he'll just think, right, okay, at least I've got that pit lane measured now. I don't have to worry about slamming on.
I think we may have just lost Alex for a second. Yeah, I think we just lost Alex for a second from sound. But yeah, going back to action track. At the moment, we have Mercedes in 2 and 3, as we see Luke Whitehead here. Going through one of the last corners, turn 15, and now into turn 16, going on a faster lap approach here, just having to stay inside, of course, on the racing line. He goes nice and wide out to the exit curb, and AstroTurf as well, only possible in the dry. That AstroTurf gets very slippery, and he slows down. Is now on P1, so a very nice lap from him, and P2 is Sutianu in the non-Evo Ferrari 488 GT3, which is actually a very interesting car choice, considering that the new updated version is available, but of course that is all driver preference. Well, now we're here with Marcus Littlewood, the third AMG GT3 Evo, and position 5 currently. Also looking very nice and clean through Sector 2 here, that very tight chicane. Turn 8 and 9, and now going to Tom Ottaway, who's coming around the last corner once more. Last lap, a 144.448, but invalid, so not quite an improvement yet. But there he is with a 44.097. So Tom Ottaway really desperate to show the Porsches are definitely still a strong contender for top 10 positions here today. Definitely very good to see that.
Yes, very much. Yeah, very much the case. Apologies, I had a slight technical difficulty in my head there, Nicholas. But the main thing is that everyone should be able to hear me loud and clear. But yes, Tom Ottey, that was a brilliant lap from him just there. Absolutely impressive. And I think that Porsche has definitely come alive here at the Hungaroring, as that really concludes the free practice session. So Ottey taking 6th behind the likes of Whitehead on the top of the timesheet, Sutiano in 2nd, Muscat, Ruoff and Littlewood. So that's it for free practice here at the 90 minutes of Hungaroring. And a very interesting dynamic there, Nicolas, because we've got quite a few different manufacturers. Porsche is showing its hand, Mercedes in the hands of Whitehead and Muscat, and quite a few other people. It's going to be a really, really interesting qualifying session. But as we know, to finish first you must finish.
Yes, and especially considering the automatic cut track system. At Hungaroring, when you're pushing on the limit, you can get a cut track quite quickly. So that is always something that you have to look out for. And over 90 minutes, that's a lot of possibilities to get a cut track or two in.
Yes, so very shortly we will be going to qualifying. A big thank you once again to our sponsors and partners. This stream is being powered by Melita. Of course, we're working in association with visitmalta.com, Gaming Malta, HyperX, Thrustmaster, and AMD. And also, we hope you're all enjoying the show here on TVM Sport in Malta, Esports Television, Motorsport.tv, and the affiliated World Pro Racing live streams. So, one of the from a driver's perspective, as we're now getting things underway with qualifying, the drivers are going to get their outlap, and again, track temperature is key to helping these drivers put the heat into the tyres, put the heats into the brakes. You know, they've had 15 minutes to really sort of get used to the track, and now this is where the real talking starts.
Yeah, and overall 31 degrees track temperature. It's warm, but it's not too hot overall, because I think that is pretty much the optimum temperature for, well, basically all of the cars to drive at the moment. Because, for example, the Audi, also the Audi, which we have in 16, for example, with Jan Reiler. But what I originally wanted to say, the Ferrari, of course, one of the cars that is infamous for overheating the tires if you overpush it too much. But on 31 degrees, that is not as bad as on 39, as we had in Suzuka earlier this week.
Yeah, and the one in Suzuka, that was definitely something that I think a lot of drivers were not wanting to have happen. However, it provided one hell of a 30-minute race at the fantastic circuit, also known as Matsusaka in Japan as well. But at least the good thing was we had a good race there, and this 90 minutes of Hungaroring, I think, is something, Nicolas, that both of us have really, really been looking forward to.
Yeah, definitely. Overall, of course, sprint races are very nice, as we have an Aston Martin there not wanting to wait for his shot at qualifying, and the others already start here. But yeah, 30 minutes, it's very sprint race. It's very much of a sprint race. You know, you don't really have any room for strategy. It's just all on point. So in regards of pure driver pace, it's of course the best thing to look at. But my personal favorite is this race distance here, 90-minute races, the perfect mix between endurance and sprint. And you just have one pit stop, which you can just time however you want. You have one pit stop, they're the same length for everyone, with the tire change usually around 30 seconds. And it's your call when to make it. It's your call when you think that you're going to be clear of traffic as soon as you get out of the pit lane.
I think one of the cars that really is going to have the advantage when it comes to fuel mitigation, let's say, is the big old Bentley Continental GT3. And Revrock in the 107 could be a driver that could profit from that quite considerably, I think.
Normally, yes. I think overall they can carry a lot less fuel, which is of course always nice, in comparison to the Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo, which uses a lot of fuel. But luckily, I think as a sort of balancing factor as well, these tires last longer, as I said, than the old-time model. But the tire change here is mandatory, so it's 30 seconds no matter how much you refuel. You can do a full refueling process without actually losing any time while changing the tires. So I think that is sort of as a balancing factor in here. So the Bentley, for example, doesn't just gain around 5 to 10 seconds on the pit stop because it didn't have to refuel as much.
Yeah, that's very, very true indeed. So we will have to see what the fuel strategies are going to be like for the competitors. As there is Yannick Ruoff in the 297 Porsche, currently running P6 on a 1 minute 44.946 second lap time. So we have seen Yannick fighting at the sharp end of the field in sprint racing. Endurance is a completely different matter altogether, and he's showing down in 31st now, so he should be on a hot lap at the moment. And you can just hear the aggressive shift down of gears down the gearbox as he flies through the corners. Wonderful sound from that 3.8 litre turbocharged flat six boxer engine. Very, very much synonymous with Porsche. And again, we're seeing that Porsche are having some really, really good efforts so far this afternoon and this evening. But again, we're seeing the Mercedes. I mean, like I see like Norton in the number 13. He's currently running P5. Then Luke Whitehead. I mean, no surprise there, really. He's up at the top of the timesheets. Then you've got Muscat and Gomes and Norton, and that's 4 Mercedes in the top 5. But then you add a bit of an Aston sort of Mercedes hybrid, as we both very well know that it's a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 from AMG that is under the clamshell of that Aston Martin. And there is Lukas Romanek in the number 332, running in a very, very bright, colourful livery, very synonymous with the WEC competitor in the GTE class, as one of the McLarens runs a little bit wide. And it's starting to really unfold, isn't it, here?
Yeah, definitely. We have a bit of an Italian response right now to the to the top 5 of Mercedes earlier. Of course, now we have Wolff, who made it up into P4 with his Porsche, and now Harrison as well with that McLaren up into P5. But Foch and also one of the other Ferraris, I think a bit further up ahead, because he set another lap time. The Italian response is really getting strong there. Pozzo as well, coming in with the Lamborghini. Yeah,
Sutiano was the one in the 334 running in the Rinaldi Racing colours. He's currently P3, so Whitehead leads Littlewood. It's a Falterbach 1-2 at the moment, as we've got 8 minutes and 18 seconds in this qualifying session for our first 90-minute casual race here, live and uninterrupted on World Pro Racing, with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Nicholas Hilbrand, your official commentators for this evening's festivities, as Marcus Littlewood running in the same kind of livery that probably a driver by the name of Lello Marcello, maybe even Eduardo Mortara, amongst others. The AMG GT3 was also a car that powered Maho Engel to multiple wins at Macau, which is taking place this weekend, but obviously no international GT Cup like we would normally have, as Littlewood keeps it in P2 at the moment. Best effort from the 88 from Great Britain, 1:43.806, as Luke Whitehead has pulled it into the pit. So at the moment, with 7.5 minutes of the session to go, Ruoff and Harrison round out the top 5 ahead of Foch, Pozzo, Corkery, Romanek, Muscat. They complete the top 10. Tom Otti currently running in 15th. Let's see if the Porsche improves. Not on that particular occasion. Now we go on board with the number 70 Porsche, down from 5th into 1st gear. So he's gone pretty much all the way down to the tail end of the gearbox. Accelerating through turn 1A. Let's keep on board and let's see if this is a fully committed hot lap. I would imagine so, with the amount of pace and vigour that he is putting into this lap at the moment. Into the right-hander, down the dip. And then we'll go into turns 6 and 7 very shortly. Just see how hard he's pushing that Porsche on the limits of adhesion. He's actually going through turn 5. And now into the short blip up to turn 6 and 7. So down from 4th to 1st. Into the right and into the left. Another short blast into the left at turn 8. And then it's another sweeping right-hander at turn 9 before the left at 10, which is effectively a slight kink to the left-hand side. As Otti was using as much curb as he would dare. Into the right at turn 11. So 4 more corners to go. The short run down to T12 into a 90 right. Got turn 12A, which is a slight kink to the left. And then into turn 13. Looking pretty good at the moment is Tom Otti. Up to second. Up to third. Wrestling with the back of the car a little bit. Down to second again through the 14th and final corner. Let's see. Does he power out of the corner pretty well? He does. Keeps 2 wheels on the tarmac. 1:44.3. And that keeps him in 18th position.
Yeah, I think it was an invalid lap somewhere. I think just pushed it a little bit too wide. So definitely a very nice lap, but this is what I mean. You know, you can just push on the limit all you want. You have to just be on edge, but also in absolute control. It just needs a couple of millimeters too much, and immediately you have a cut track.
So Luke Whitehead is the class of the field, a 1:43.236 for the 557 Mercedes. Keeps him on provisional pole position with 5 minutes on the clock remaining. And Sutiano, Nicolas, has put the Ferrari, amongst the Mercedes pigeons this evening. The 334 in the Rinaldi Racing colours, currently P2 ahead of Littlewood, and Sheldon Muscat rounding out the top 4 with Lucas Romanek rounding out the top 5 drivers. And it is how are the times looking between the top 5? I bet it's really, really close at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely is looking close. Sutiano, like as I said just when you were gone, really interesting fact, he's not using the non-Evo 488 GT3, so he's using the older model, but basically just shouting towards the guys of the new 2020 cars, age of this car doesn't make a difference, I'm going to take the fight to you guys anyway.
So that is a really, really good telling point there, as Sheldon Muscat lets some of the other drivers get in front, which includes the 334 Nathaniel Thomas, currently running at the top 17 ahead of Tom Otti. Kun Sabo, the number 11 Porsche, currently running at the top 15. So top 25 covered, rounded out by David Christie in the number 1 Camber Media Racing Mercedes-Benz. Well, actually, he drops to 26th position, as everyone is just absolutely pushing. Gurgly Kun Sabo flashing the headlights on that Porsche to try and get past. And that could be Connor Cunliffe, I think, in the number 41 Honda NSX that he's just had to sort of like say, come on, mate, you need to get out of the way. And Cunliffe doing that and letting another Ferrari get through. Foch was definitely pushing, and that Ferrari has kicked up dust twice in the last 3 corners and runs a little bit wide, but no lack of commitment from all these drivers here, Nicolas.
Yeah, definitely. Foch, even though he's a little bit further down the order, in the S4 LT Ferrari, he's really, really desperate to just get further up the order, to stay in the top 10, because he knows very well that right behind him there's a lot of guys still coming here.
Yeah, so Foch now deciding to pull it into the pits in the number 8 Ferrari GT3 Evo. So just, mind out for that speed limit of 50 kph, otherwise you get a drive through. And that can even happen in qualifying. You can even get a penalty in qualifying with lap times being deleted. Kun Sabo in the number 11 Porsche, looking to try and improve from 17th. It's not been easy, though. The track temperature, however, Nicolas, is dropping. We were at 32 degrees track temperature in practice, but now we've dropped to 30 degrees Celsius, but the ambient temperature still the same at 24.
Yeah, overall, I think a few clouds are just going overhead. Maybe it's going a little bit, maybe the sun is setting a little bit. It is 4:13 p.m. on the server right now, so the sun is definitely getting a little bit lower. The atmosphere, as you said, the air temperature 24 degrees, it's staying the same. But of course, when the sun is getting lower and lower, the track temperature will drop a little bit by bit as well.
So we go into the last 90 seconds of qualifying here at the World Pro Racing GT3, 90 minutes at at Hungaroring. Luke Whitehead currently leads the way ahead of Sutianu and Littlewood. Muscat and Huoff round out the top 5 positions. Fancy joining our community? Well, why not follow us on all our social media? And if you want to race with us, very, very simple. Register on worldproracing.com. We use various platforms. We use R Factor 2. We use Assetto Corsa Competizione. Oh! I'm glad they got that one out of the way. We don't want that happening in the race. We also run on Gran Turismo Sports. So feel free to join us on worldproracing.com. There will be more announcements in the coming days and weeks of what is set to come from us here at World Pro Racing. We hope you can be part of the ever-expanding community. So Coleman Corkery in the Aston Martin crosses the line. P13 on a 1 minute 44.346. Luke Whitehead now making his way towards the final part of the track. So, now whoever parked there, I'm sorry, you just ruined probably what was a pretty good lap from Luke Whitehead. That looked to be another Mercedes on the inside of turn 12. And that's not exactly the best place to park it, is it, Nicholas, on the racing line?
Yeah, it's definitely not the best place. If you want to let someone through around the outside, then you should make sure that you're well clear of the upcoming apex. And luckily also, as you said, get that out of the way in qualifying still, instead of that happening in the race.
So Sheldon Muscat. Right, time has hit 0 on qualifying for the 90 minutes at Hungaroring. And Muscat looking to try and get a bit closer. But it looks like, I think time has fast run out for the number 14. And he is pulling, let's just keep with him for a second. So he's got about half a second to find, if that, as that wonderful Mercedes roar comes out of the final corner. And he stays 4th. That's it for qualifying.
Personal best from him, but not enough to make up any positions. But nevertheless, very good, respectable lap. 43s generally are quite fast laps around this circuit.
Yeah, but also, Luke Whitehead and Sutianu make it a Mercedes-Ferrari front row for the race, which will be getting underway very shortly. But it just shows that Sutianu deciding to go on the pre-Evo version of the Ferrari 488 GT3 just shows how capable that car is.
Yeah, it's definitely just an overall very good and well-balanced car. Maybe for him, it's also just, how do you say it best, a little bit of a driver preference of how the older model handles, because I know for a fact, for example, from a couple of real-life Audi drivers, they prefer the non-Evo Audi to the current GT3 Evo Audi. So, just overall how the car handles, I think it's a lot of driver preference.
I think in the words of what we would say in the United Kingdom, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Which is very, very true. I mean, you have drivers nowadays like I'm going to give a shout out here to 2 drivers from Rutronic Racing, Kavi Schreiner and Dennis Marshall, who've been running the ADAC GT Masters this season. They're running with the Evo. But then you'll see people like René Haas, Nico Müller, who were part of the DTM effort for Audi Sport, but very, very well known within GT3 racing circles, particularly with Vincent Voss and WRT, amongst other teams. But I think it is going to be a straight-out dogfight, a Falterbach versus Maranello. But I think maybe Weissach could probably feature in that, depending on what happens on the very first lap. Wouldn't you agree, Nicholas?
Yeah, I think especially on the first couple laps, when the entire field is still very close together, especially then it will be very important to stay close to each other, but just not get that little bit too close. It's really just, the entirety of Hungaroring is just this constant play of, too close but not too close. And I'm interested to see which drivers will get maybe too close and which drivers are going to profit from that.
Well, sometimes they do call it too close for comfort, as we are about to get the 90 minutes casual race at Hungaroring underway here on World Pro Racing. A big thank you to you all for joining us, and we are about to get things underway. And it looks like there has been a couple of changes. Looks like Huoff actually did a personal best and put a Porsche on the front row. So we're about to get things underway with the very, very short formation which will start bringing them round the final corner in 5 seconds' time. 1 hour, 30 minutes of racing, 1 mandatory pit stop from all competitors. And it looks like Nathaniel Thomas is showing in the pit lane. So the GT3s make their way around the final corner. It will be Whitehead from Ruoff, Sutiano, Littlewood, Muscat, Romanek. Thomas showing in the pits. Otti, Kunsabo and Gomez. Red lights. Oh, there was a bit of a moment there, wasn't it, for Muscat, I believe.
Yep.
So, ladies and gentlemen, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, we go green, they push the accelerators hard to the floor. Ruoff in the Porsche gets an absolutely blistering start as they hurtle their way down to T1 for the first time. And it's looking rather interesting. Sutiano looks to be down in 5th position at the minute. They all filter their way through. No real altercations that I've just seen as such. The driver's making it safely through. And, oh no, we've had a turnaround. We've had a turnaround of that Mercedes. The Bentley's been spun around, so Revrock in the 107 has gone round as well. A bit untidy. They're going into turn 4 for the first time. However, oh, David Christie in the wall in the number 1 Mercedes a bit further down the order as the order consistently changes. And we kind of thought that that might have been the case, but Luke Whitehead now has Yannick Ruoff charging at him like a Brahma bull.
He was able to keep it ahead just barely through turn 1 before all of the last couple of corners unfolded. But yeah, Luke Whitehead getting a great recovery there from Ruoff just getting the jump on him on the start. In NZ Isne, in the number 78 Mercedes there, I think might be one of the cars that got a little bit of damage, but still going quite strong at the moment.
Arias in the number 15 Porsche has been hit with a drive-through. I'm waiting for confirmation from race control as to whether that was due to contact or whether a jump start. So Carly Atkins in the number 2 Lexus chasing down on Gergely Kunsabo, who is now up into 8th position. Yannick Ruoff has now got he's got 1 or 2 choices to make. Because if Littlewood actually closes on him, whilst Ruoff is closing on Whitehead, Ruoff will be the Porsche in the meet in the Mercedes sandwich, and will have to make the choice of, do I attack or do I defend? As now Sutiano gets jumped by, that is Romanek in the 332 Aston Martin, and then Tom Otti in the number 70 Porsche, charging at the non-Evo Ferrari 488.
Yeah, for the race start, I think overall the Porsches will be a little bit more eager to turn in. Of course, the cars are a lot heavier there, but the Porsche being odd compared to the other cars in more than just one way. Of course, the only rear engine car, but also the only car with the fuel tank in the front, I believe.
Yes, that is very true. There is Colin Cunliffe in the number 41 Honda NSX, currently in 29th position. There is Marcus Littlewood in the number 88. He's being hounded by Sheldon Muscat in the number 14 Mercedes. So it is a Mercedes leading from Porsche, Mercedes, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Porsche, Lexus. As Carly Atkins doing an absolutely sterling job in the number 2 Lexus so far. Oh, bit of a run wide there from Littlewood. Nearly could have opened the door there for Muscat to come through. As we now go on the onboard on the rear windscreen cam of the 911 GT3R 991-2 of Yannick Ruoff in the 297. Currently running in 2nd position. A little bit further behind Luke Whitehead is Dan Hackett in the number 20 Mercedes, battling away with Gergely Kunsabo, who has actually got the position. So Kunsabo was actually trying to counter-attack there. And now Norton in the number 13 Mercedes trying to close. Yellow flags briefly out, but retracted.
Look at the straight line speed of that Mercedes, though. Absolutely stellar once it actually gets going. And the Porsche just not quite able to answer to that power out of the last corner there. And now we have Rainer Resser next to another Mercedes and behind a non-Evo Mercedes, actually, that of Christie, I think.
Yeah, and Christie's non-Evo has got a lot of damage, as is Resser. Yeah, I think David Christie is going to keep himself in the fight as long as he dare. Runs a little bit wide. Rainer Resser slots in up the inside of the number 1. David Christie, based out of Scotland, runs his own media company, helping within motorsport. But he does love to turn a wheel behind a sim on the odd occasion. Muscat really getting the elbows out. A little bit of a touch, I think there. Slight little love tap on the back bumper of Littlewood as we go on board with Sheldon Muscat in the number 14 GT Omega RPM Esports Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 Evo. As we're fast approaching the conclusion of the first 5 minutes of this 90-minute race, and it feels like the 90 minutes have already elapsed, Nicholas, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, they like to say it, it's the 24-hour sprint race, and this is a 90-minute sprint race. No one's leaving each other any room to breathe, as we have a nice switch over just as we change cameras once again to Colin Cuniff in the Honda right behind Ligreston. And, our camera directors don't know where to go. There's just too much action all around the circuit. Yeah,
Ashton Cox just had Revrock charging up the inside, and there's Esney trying to go around the outside. Romanik now battling away with Sutianu. Otti's there in the mix. So this is getting really, really feisty. Muscat, in the meantime, has lost ground to Littlewood in the number 88. And it was Corkery on Harrison that we saw a little bit of a switchback attempt, but the 217 McLaren was still able to keep ahead for the minute as Romanik closing as there is the number 78. It's the HW, the German pronunciation. Sorry, Nicholas. HWR Race Lab Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3. I think. Yes, we found that Ressa was the one that had a drive-through because of contact with David Christie. So Heiner Ressa is the culprit of the number 1 Canberra Media Racing Mercedes, looking a bit second-hand, let's say, on the front end. As we've got a stop-go 30 for Gomes in the number 36, who is down, who's actually down in 36th position in the number 6, is now Muscat starting to look a little bit impatient, and that's by flashing the lights, because effectively Littlewood could be the cork in the bottle, because Sutiano's wanting to get past. Romanik in the Aston Martin is there. Otti in the number 70 Porsche. This is going to be a really, really tight battle from 2nd to 6th here.
I think we had earlier in the lap, I just saw it out of the corner of my eye earlier as you were just talking about the current situation, but I think we lost Yannick Rohoff at the front battle. He's heading into the pit lane now, so I think he had a crash earlier. I saw him in the runoff at the exit of turn 3, the downhill kink, and that might be why that is a lot closer now. There we have the next close situation.
Yeah, Tom Otti dropping down a couple of positions, and I've just seen that Harrison has got a drive-through on Gomes. So Harrison now serving his drive-through penalty. And yeah, you were spot on there, Nicolas. Rohoff has dropped outside of the top 20, and I think has plummeted right down to the tail end of the field. Luke Whitehead, in the meantime, running the 1:44.9 at the minute. Mihai Sutianu in the number 334 Ferrari, currently running in P6 ahead of Tom Otti. And then Carly Atkins has been doing an absolutely blinding job in that Lexus. The number 2 is currently P5, with Sutianu trying to close him down.
Well, just the usual case of stay calm, don't move, and they won't see me. And he's just made his way up to P5 very, very well. And quite honestly, if he just keeps it up like this, we have so many battles throughout the field, who knows where he may end up.
So track temperature is dropping. Server time is 5:11 p.m. 23 degrees air temperature, 27 degrees track temperature. And one of the biggest things here, Nicolas, is that apart from having to manage the tyres in terms of the degradation and the sliding and making sure you're not pushing the car too hard, the other thing is that the colder temperatures, it's going to be difficult to keep the heat in those tyres.
Yeah, that is also true, because, well, of course, when they're cold, the tyres will not give any grip whatsoever as well. So with these more massive sidewalls, it's actually a little bit more important now, once again, to actually keep the heat in the tyres as well. I think around here it shouldn't be as much of a problem because you still have a lot of mid-speed corners where you really need the tire grip, so they really get a good workout. But it's definitely one of the things that you have to additionally consider now, instead of just trying to keep the tire temperature down a little bit, like with the old compound.
Yeah, Palomar looks to have gotten a drive-through. In the number 3 Ferrari, just behind Ashton Cox in the Garage 59 livery. Kunsabo back up into 9th place ahead of Corkery, with Foch in the number 8 Ferrari just behind. But Whitehead and Littlewood making it a Mercedes 1-2 here at the Hungaroring, live and uninterrupted for the 90 minutes. Casual race GT3 on Assetto Corsa Competizione here, live and uninterrupted on World Pro Racing. So Palomar will have 3 laps. So Palomar has been given a drive-through from race control. And one of the other things is, Nicholas, is that effectively you and I have been partnered up on half-hour races. Now it's a 90-minute endurance race. Okay, we know it's going to be a full-on sprint. But when you get to that final third of the race, the mental and physical aspects, even though this is sim racing, it is still just as intense as getting behind the wheel in real life.
I'd definitely say so. Of course, here you have to focus on purely the input you get from your steering wheel on the desk or in the rig, wherever you have yourself set up while you're driving. And in that way, I'd say sim racing is a bit more straining mentally than the actual, real life driving. Because in real life, you just get so much more input. You have a little bit more detail on the sound. You can hear a little bit better where the sound is coming from. Because, of course, in real life, your ears can pick up a lot better than just a 7.1 surround headset. And at the same time, of course, you just don't have the G-forces telling you what's going on. You only have it through the steering wheel. Maybe a little vibration motor in your pedals, if you've got a bit of hardware from Fanatec. But, like as you said, in this last half hour, it's going to be survival of the fittest, basically, because I think at that point everyone will be either just finishing their pit rotation, or they will already have finished their pit rotation, and then just continue fighting no matter what happens.
So there we have the number 77 of Hans Hanus. Then we go back to Dan Hackett. Look at this swarm here. So we've got Hackett, Kunsabo, Corkery and Foch. And Foch trying to go round the outside. That's brave in the Ferrari. And he's going to get the inside run for the next corner. Foch up into 10th position. That was a howitzer of a move there from Foch in the number 8 Ferrari.
Over and under and under and over. And inside and outside. Really just very well able to keep it alongside and now able to hold that position very well. So Foch really showing what that new GT3 Evo is capable of.
Yeah, as Kunsabo manages to get up the inside through turn 13 on Hackett in the number 20 Mercedes. So now up into 8th position goes the number 11 Porsche. So we still have plenty of this race left to run, but look at the power from the Mercedes of Hackett in the number 20. Back up the inside he goes, but look at Kunsabo, he's run wide. Oh, Foch had to avoid there, and he could have got the run, but this has allowed Corkery to get back up the inside of the number 8 Ferrari, who now, and that has actually happened. And then you've got, Ryler in the 333 Audi going round the outside of the Ferrari. Oh my goodness, we knew this was going to be tight and testing for the drivers, but we are being treated to an absolute cavalcade of fantastic GT3 racing and overtaking masterclasses here at the Hungaroring. My goodness me.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the very lead aspects of this circuit. You just have to get this entire flow of corners perfectly. We saw Foch had to really just avoid
there's been a tag. There has been a tag, and that was a Mercedes. Might have been a back marker, I believe, that got in the way of Foch, and Foch, I think, had a little bit of nowhere to go. There's been a drive-through given for Thomas in the number 4, and that was through contact on Johnson in the 85 Lexus a bit earlier on. So Thomas will have 3 laps to serve that penalty. Tom Ottey, however, coming under fire from Mihai Sutianu in the 3-3-4. Sutianu to the outside, Otti to the inside of turn 1. Porsche nicely nailed on the apex, through into the right kink at turn 1A. Line astern between the pair. Otti's been doing really, really well in that Porsche, and he is actually the leading Porsche at the moment. Kunsabo has made it 2 from Weissach. Oh, Muscat having a moment, and there is another AMG involved. Let's have a look at this replay.
I think that might have been another back marker. So
well, so that might have been the same back marker that might have been, yeah. So that driver is keeping well and truly out of the way. Oh, there's the replay. Muscat having nowhere to go, and yeah, that's. I mean, I think the thing is that when you're charging and you're trying to get past other drivers, and then a back marker sort of spoils the party, that has now really. Okay, we've still got an hour and 14 minutes and 37 seconds still to go, Nicholas. So there is an opportunity for Muscat to claw some time back, but how much damage has that Mercedes sustained as a result of that contact? Is it causing the car to have a problem on the handling? Now, there's so many different factors you have to now consider for Sheldon Muscat, even though he's dropped down to P7.
I think at this point there will be some considerable damage on that Mercedes, especially with the speed of that collision. He came in a little bit hot, but of course, at that point, you just don't expect that back marker to pull further to the inside there again. And yeah, I think just generally a miscommunication at that part. Muscat, of course, he has to watch out because on the start he was that car that actually struck the inside pit wall, and that is actually another late move there to Motorway actually getting to Carly Atkins' inside and actually costing himself that position again after running wide, and Sutiano just slips through.
Yeah, I think that was textbook from the Ferrari. So literally, Ottaway sent it up the inside of Atkins, and that forced the pair of them wide. And then, Sutiano just waited, bided time, and thought, "Yep, I've got an opportunity here." And straight through went the Ferrari. Here's Ted Bradbury in the '89 Mercedes, who's got Sam Harrison. As there is Carly Atkins, who's now been passed by Tom Otti. And that's through the chicane at T6 and 7, and then into 8, and going to the right-hander at 9. And this was the flowing section of corners that you were talking about, Nicholas, because it really gives you a good run going into turn 11 and 12, because you've got a nice sort of bit of opportunity to stretch the car's legs. And then there's a bit of a downhill slant going down to it, as now Foch closing on Jan Reiler in the 333 Audi, the only Audi, and is running in the top 10. And look at the squabble in front. You've got Hackett, Kunsabo and Corkery all battling over 7th position. This is allowing both Reiler and Foch to close up.
Yeah, and this is exactly what is this little twist about this circuit. Of course, it's tight, of course. You can't really make moves anywhere. And, I mean, of course, very famous in F1, there's not too many moves to be made here, simply because of the huge amount of downforce loss through most of the corners. But in these GT3 cars, that isn't present, and you really notice it with these trains of cars just constantly following each other for laps at a time.
It's all about the slipstream strategy, game of chess, as Hackett seems to be leading that at the moment. But Corkery, tight on the inside, gets a good run in the Aston Martin, does the number 9, up into, that is 7th place for Callum Corkery. But around the outside goes Hackett, through the next corner. Corkery responds, keeps the position. That is GT3 warfare at its very, very finest. The slight battle there for position was won, but the war is still yet to be over here. As you can just see that Foch is closing on the back of Heiler. Kunsabo trying to get one up. Oh, there's been a bit of a moment a little bit further back. Looks like we've got Cox and Harrison involved. And that's at the far part of the circuit. Let's just have a look. Okay, so Cox and Harrison were pretty much side by side coming out of the final corner. Cox goes to the right, Harrison to the left, into turn 1. Harrison goes deep on the brakes, goes in, touches the right rear, and spins Cox round.
I think just a little bit of a misjudgment there. I think he accelerated expecting Cox to also accelerate there. But of course, different car handling, and I think overall the McLaren one of the cars with the best traction out of corners. So, you know, like you have to try and stay on the limit, but this is, as we said at the start of the race, you know, just a little bit too close for comfort.
Littlewood has got a drive-through penalty, just being informed by race control what that was for. So that is going to change everything. That puts that could more than likely put Romanik up into second, Sutiano up into third. We'll just wait for the confirmation, which we're just getting as at the moment. Kun Sabo still battling away with the likes of Hackett, as Corkery in the Aston Martin has shot away into the distance like a rat up a drain pipe, and he has gotten away. But Kun Sabo really hustling Hackett once again. These two have been at loggerheads, and yeah, so there has been, well, we've had have we just had a disqualification? Yeah, Sharp has been disqualified for careless driving, not observing blue flags. So Trevor Sharp disqualified from the race as a result of multiple blue flag infringements. And that has probably been impeded the likes of Sheldon Muscat being one of them. But this battle here is just absolutely... This is really, really getting up close and personal, hot and heated under the collar. We've now got just over 1 hour and 9 minutes of this race, and they are going at it like a full-on sprint.
Well, we're about to approach the pit stop window because overall, I think most of the cars can do a maximum of around 65 to maybe 68 minutes, depending on the lap length. But yeah, we're definitely approaching this now. I'm interested to see what sort of strategies people follow, because of course, a very well-liked strategy is, of course, to just pack fuel in for 30 minutes, have the lightest car possible at the start, and just try to get away from a lot of people as quickly as possible. But with all this battling here, it hasn't quite worked, so people who actually went for that strategy might be in a bit of a bind.
And possibly thinking about maybe doing an undercut, as here comes Kun Sabo trying to force the issue with Hackett. That is going through into turn 2. Kun Sabo to the outside, tries to get the switch back, but Hackett has the run into turn 3. And still behind, they have got Rira, Foch, and they have got a backmarker Mercedes just behind. As that was a bit of a run wide there from Hackett. So he's just going to keep an eye on that, because otherwise too many off-track excursions, meaning all 4 wheels off of the tarmac, will then ping them for a drive-through. So it looks like Harrison will get a drive-through as a result of that turn 1 altercation on lap 11. But the biggest conundrum here is Littlewood having been shown a drive-through. Yeah, so it's a stop and go actually for Harrison. He'll get a stop-go 10. But the biggest thing is that yeah, Littlewood is now in the. Do you know what that is for, Nicholas? With the drive-through for Littlewood, is that for track limits possibly?
I think that might be for track limits already, and that is exactly the big danger that I talked about. Already in 30 minutes, you're quite already on the limit, and that is actually Dan Hackett going a little bit too hot into the last corner, and Gergely Kunsabo, the man playing with the home field advantage, is saying hello, thank you for now, but I'd rather keep that place into turn 1.
Oh yeah, Hackett's back up the inside. He literally, with the power of that Leviathan engine under that bonnet of that Mercedes, back through into 8th place. And now, Foch is in the pits as Harrison comes in.
That's
yes, I think so, and that does happen in sim racing. We started with around 36 cars. I think we probably got about 34. Yeah, race controllers just confirmed that Afonseca got disconnected, so that is his race done and dusted. Dan Hackett now battling away with Jan Rilla in the number 333 Audi, who's trying to go up the inside of the Mercedes through the final corner. But that Mercedes power really does start coming up trumps as they fire their way down. Literally, those engines roaring to the top of the rev limit. And Hackett trying to go around the outside. That Mercedes is just absolutely brutal on the straights, but Hackett just absolutely has a bit of a calamity going wide through turn one, and that allows Ryler in the 333 Audi, and there is the number 6 Mercedes that is just keeping out of the way. One of the back markers down in 30th position. So, and there is Pozzo in the 710 Lamborghini. Mats Walden currently running in 27th position ahead of Kylo, Christie, Gomes and Lagertsen. As we go back to Hackett. And Hackett, I think that car is starting to struggle. Just by the corner entry and the corner exit, he's not completely confident. I think those tyres are going.
Yeah, I think that is definitely the case, and he also has a drive-through penalty now, so that might have been just a little bit too much off the track for him.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I think that's definitely him being... yeah, I think a couple of those run wides, that's caused problems. That's going to drop him. I mean, I think if he's got a drive-through for that, that could possibly put him out of the top 15. Maybe. Who
Definitely.
knows? So it's.
I think the person who's going to really laugh to himself right now is Foch, because he went into the pits with the knowledge that his Ferrari can run a longer distance. The Ferrari being one of the very fuel-efficient cars around, well, all circuits, because V8 twin turbo, and Hackett being in the Mercedes, so very fuel consuming, and an additional drive-through penalty, so he hasn't even done his mandatory pit stop yet. And of course, yeah, like just staying out of that battle probably is going to gain Foch a little bit of time as well. So I'm really interested to see how their relation to each other, where Hackett is going to come out in comparison to Foch now, with all that battling taken into account, and of course also with that drive-through penalty taken into account as well.
Yeah, very true there. Well put there, Nicholas. As Heiner Hesse battling away with Foch in the number 8 Ferrari. I think that looks like that Foch actually decided to get the pit stop out of the way maybe and fill that Ferrari up to the brim. We'll find out, because even though there is one mandatory pit stop required, some drivers might short fuel and do that ultimate splash and dash at the end of the race, as Colin Cunliffe in the number 41 Honda has been doing an absolutely brilliant job. Currently running in P13. And just behind, oh, Dan Hackett goes wide again. Oh, that track limit monitor on his Mercedes must be going like the clappers, pinging like a good one. Oh my goodness, Dan Hackett's race is going from bad to worse, whereas Corkery battling away. Well, that's not for position. Corkery is currently in 6th place. Littlewood currently in 7th. Consabo 8th. Rilla Pozzo rounding out the top 10. Good job still by Whitehead, but what's the gap like between Whitehead and Romanik at the moment?
I think that's a good question to ask right here. I think it should be a little bit bigger by now, because we have the next car in there, that's a McLaren, so definitely a lapped car in between them at least. And I'd say that there's at least a 10-second gap by now.
Yes, Dan Hackett now being pressurised by Arias, who went a bit wide in the number 15 Porsche coming out of turn 14. So they now filter their way and into turn 1. Oh, Arias sending it up the inside of Hackett. Oh, the pair clash. They bang panels and Hackett gets forced wide. And that could really cause a problem, as there is a Lexus. Is that, I'm just wondering, is that possibly John? That could be Johnson just behind in the 85, or could it be Atkins in the number 2?
I think it's not Atkins, because Atkins should have a different livery. That is, I think that could be, yeah, maybe it is Johnson. I couldn't quite see the number there on the Lexus, sadly.
No, neither could I. But
24.
24, so that is definitely Alexis outside of the top. Yeah, that's outside of the top 25 drivers. And that is Lagertsen. So he's currently 31st at the moment, and he fancied a bit of with the two battling over what is 15th position. As Bradbury and the Mercedes now trying to go side by side with Cunliffe in the number 41 Honda, and Bradbury gets past in the Mercedes. So just over half an hour completed, with 59 minutes and 10 seconds still to go. Jori Stiekvoort from the Netherlands battling away with Foch in the number 8 Ferrari. So McLaren, Woking's finest versus Maranello's finest in GT3 machinery. Coming down the dip, heading down towards turn 12, and a moment there for Ted Bradbury. Now, was there contact? That is the biggest thing. I don't think so, because Cunliffe went through quite easily there, so I'm wondering if Bradbury had a bit of a moment going into turn 1. But Bradbury still powers past the Honda like it was absolutely nothing, like it was standing still. There is Kuhn Sabo. Just behind that looks to be David Christie, who is down at the bottom part of the field. So at the moment, Whitehead leads from Romanik, Sotianu, Ottaway, Atkins, Corkery, Littlewood, Kuhn Sabo, Rira and Bozo round out the top 10. It's been a rather interesting race so far, Nicholas.
Yeah, overall, there were a lot of penalties, of course, spoken out, either from track cutting, and I think that's Hackett with the next one for cut tracks, taking a little bit of a too aggressive approach. Actually falling behind Arias now, who was, I think, the driver who got a penalty for being out of position at the start.
Yeah.
So, Arias, meanwhile, proving that even if your race is starting like that, you can still show up strong and continue very strong, and that was very close, of course, for Kunsabo there.
Yeah, there's Lilla, who's now being closed in on by Bozzo. As there goes, that's Hackett going back in for his second drive-through. His race has literally been destroyed as a result of both of those drive-through penalties. So if he finishes in the top 20, I think that'll be a very good recovery after what's been probably a first half hour of the race he would more than likely forget. Lucas Romanek still currently sitting in second position as Ricard Pozzo running in the Lippert Motorsport colours in the 710. He's losing a little bit of distance between himself and Jan Rilla in the number 333 Audi. And there is a Mercedes wanting to get past. Like it's going out of fashion, swerving to one way, then the other. That looks to be a back marker.
Yeah,
So-
definitely one of the... Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, who do you think's going to blink first out of the leaders, Nicola? Sorry to put you on the spot there, but I mean, it's all about the undercut, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think... I think Romanek is actually closing in right now, because that is an Aston Martin right there. So maybe Whitehead had a bit of an issue there. No, actually, that isn't Romanek, so... Yeah, not quite an issue yet. I think he's completely free to choose when or where to pit at the moment, Luke Whitehead. And I think for Romanek right now, it's imperative that he just keeps it clear from traffic. So before he meets any further big traffic groups, he has to pit. But also, of course, gamble on his luck that he comes out in clean air. And that Whitehead perhaps is coming out in not so clean air, and that is Jörg Stickford with the next victim through turn 3.
Oh. Not exactly that great, as Stickford waiting for the rest of the field to get past, and the number 28 McLaren going to the other side of the circuit, having to try and engage reverse gear. Oh, that was a Lexus and an Aston that just went past the McLaren, then a Mercedes. So Stickford not having the greatest run of luck as we head back to Luke Whitehead, as the track temperature dropping The sun starting to drop a little bit here, as you can see the bigger shadows starting to showcase themselves as some of the other drivers. And Pozzo trying to close on Ryler as they both get past David Christie.
Yeah, Pozzo in the Lamborghini and Ryler in the Audi, both of those in the Evo versions of that car. And yeah, overall, it's a bit of an ongoing meme amongst racing fans and, of course, drivers as well, as Pozzo now moves his Lamborghini past. You know, the Audi and the Lamborghini, they're different, but they're the same. It's basically the same engine, same chassis, but, of course, the aerodynamic profile is quite different. And, well, it seems that here, the aerodynamic profile of the Lamborghini is a little bit more advantageous than the one of the Audi.
I would completely concur with that statement, Nicholas. We saw a bit of a moment there for Johnson in the 85 Lexus as Ashton Cox is being closed on by Foch in the number 8 Ferrari. Muscat starting to recover a little bit now. He's up to 18th position and he's behind the number 3 Ferrari of Palmai. There is Muscat.
Yeah, he definitely didn't have an easy race either.
No, not at all. I mean, especially with Sharp, I think it was the back marker that got in his way. And I think at the end of it all, Muscat was completely unsighted. Cunliffe and Arias battling away over 15th position. Nice switchback from the number 41 Honda NSX GT3. That was through into turn 1. Now they go into the left-hander at turn 2. Cunliffe still keeping ahead of Arias. But Arias in the Porsche looks a lot closer with that better gearing. Tom Otti currently running at the top 4 and is a bit further behind Sutianu. We go back to Sir Foch in the number 8 Ferrari, up to 3rd, up to 4th. And he's got past Ashton Cox in the Aston Martin. Up through the gears, up to 2nd, up to 3rd. It's just wonderful here as well, Nicholas, hearing these different sort of engine noises, you know, literal guttural, like, roar of the Mercedes. You then hear the scream of the Ferrari, the Porsche with its, you know, with its sort of like, its own sort of unique identifiable exhaust noise. It's so wonderful to hear these cars go absolutely flat out here at the Hungaroring this evening.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And, well, I'd say this is one of the biggest strong points of Assetto Corsa Competizione as well, just how well they bring over these engine sounds, how well they bring the different engine sounds of all these cars just into this simulation. And, you know, like, even when you go to the older cars, or especially when you go to the older cars, as a fan of the Gallardo and, of course, the V12 Aston with what's the biggest engine in the game, over 7 liters in the V12, they just sound absolutely spectacular. And of course also that old Jaguar. I had the fortune of actually being there for the 2018 24 Hours of Spa, hearing those cars in person, and it's definitely just spot on, and it's absolutely fantastic in every way.
Yeah, so we just briefly saw that was Corkery and Harris battling away over 5th position. So Atkins, my apologies there. So Atkins with the right-hand side of that Lexus, the number 2 Lexus, completely battle-scarred as Arias trying to go back up the inside of Cunliffe in the Honda. And once again, a switch back for position. Up to 15th goes the number 15 Porsche. So they go through the chicane at turn 6 and 7. Short blast. As a bit of a run wide there from Arias, but through into turns 8 into 9. And into the left at 10 before the right-hand corner at turn 11. So Carly Atkins absolutely doing a fantastic job. He's keeping Corkery at bay in the number 9 Aston Martin. And both these drivers absolutely holding nothing back whatsoever. And they're going to really... Now they've got a back marker coming up just ahead. And this is the time, Nicholas, where the back markers really start making a difference in terms of those going for the overall victory.
Yeah, because you just have to try and minimize the damage that backmarkers could do for you. In the case of Sheldon Scott Muscat, literally, and of course, in the case of most other drivers, figuratively. And, well, limiting the literal damage is sadly a little bit too late for Sheldon Scott Muscat, but now it's, of course, then the situation. As soon as that happened, how much can you just scavenge from the remaining drive? How can you just position your car the best on a narrow circuit such as this to just make the most out of the rest of the race?
Oh, a bit of an outbreak there. Outbreaking himself there was Foch in the number 8 Ferrari through turn 1. Currently running in 21st position. Oh, and I've just noticed that Dan Hackett is just ahead as Arias. Now still ahead of Cunniff for 15th position, as we have 49 minutes on the clock remaining. Server time showing at 5:43 p.m. Track temperature again drops another degree on the track side of it, and nigh on 2 degrees on the air temperature, but the track's still running at optimum. There's Martin Palmay in the number 3 Ferrari running in 17th position, and is actually closing, and look who he's bringing with him, Sheldon Muscat.
Yeah, it's going to get quite close now, and of course, one car which isn't quite in that position fight there, but making it a little bit harder perhaps than it needs to be, because now Martin Palmay is completely open on the inside and actually gets a little bit of a bump there from Sheldon Scott Muscat, but yeah, he actually used that opportunity to go in to get his mandatory pit stop out of the way. Yeah,
bringing it in nearly at around about half distance at that particular point. So Palmay, one of the first sort of... Oh, Bradbury's in the pits as well, in the 89 Mercedes. So the pit stop phase is well and truly underway here at the 90 minutes of the Hungaroring. Here, live and uninterrupted on World Pro Racing. If you want to get involved, join our community, head to worldproracing.com. That's how you can register to get yourself involved on a variety of platforms. R Factor 2, Assetto Corsa Competizioni, Gran Turismo Sport, and we do also have championships, casual races as Carly Atkins in the number 2 for Lexus jumps into the pits. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, and on Twitter. So, mandatory pit stop, what is it, 30 seconds I think the drivers have to serve here, Nicholas?
Yep, basically 30 seconds. The tire swap and the refueling is timed together, so it's not like, for example, in the WEC, where the refueling is separate from the tire change, which is one of the main strategic aspects of all of that. But luckily here it's all together. It's quite helpful for most people. And of course, we don't have limited tire sets. Actually, it's, well, as you said earlier, mandatory to change tires here. So a nice equalizer. Everyone's going to get new rubbers under their car, and let's see how everyone will use those new rubbers to their advantage as soon as they get in.
Yep, and then they will put the pedal to the metal. Arias goes into the pits now. Looks like we're getting another message from race control very, very shortly. As Whitehead gets past Cunniff. Atkins rejoins in 9th position in the number 2 Lexus. Okay. Lagertsen gets a 10-second penalty for blue flag infringements. So another driver to fall foul of that. And it's really going to be interesting to see who really comes up trumps in terms of how they are going to proceed in this race, as we are very, very close, as Gomes also gets a drive-through penalty. That is for possibly, more than likely, track limits. Otti in the pits, Corkery in the pits. They are starting to flood in. There is Otti in the
Littlewood as well.
Yep. Oh, so they're all coming in. So Corkery now looks to be driving in. So Littlewood parks up. Corkery now parks up. And ladies and gentlemen, we are pretty much at half-time here at the 90 minutes of the Hungaroring. A big thank you to you all for tuning in so far. and the major pit stop phases have started. In the moment, Atkins is showing in the pits again as well. That's quite a surprise. But Kun Sabo is promoted up to 4th as Otti, Corkery, Littlewood. The number 78 of Yesny also in the pits. Thomas in the pits. So they're all starting to come in. I think they've decided to keep the fuel in as long as possible and fuel to half race distance, and then maybe brim it for a little bit of an extra over allowance just in case.
Yeah, and overall, I think that's one of the safest strategies to go with. It gives you a little bit of dynamics, and Romanek now heading into the pits as well. I think Muscat probably was already in the pits, just around the 1 hour left mark, just so he could get the damage repair out of the way. And I think we just had Rainer Ressa also come out of the pits, and with a stop and go 30 seconds, so that might be for speeding on his way into the pit lane.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So drivers will have to watch the km/h speed limit in the pits, as there's a bit of a run wide from one of the Lexus cars out on the circuit, and that is not going to be looked favourably upon by the track limit software, so to speak, and that could really make the difference between winning and losing, as Whitehead and Romanek are both in the pits. Yellow flags. Oh my goodness me! That was Rilla in the 333 Audi. Now, what happened there? Was that cold tyres? That was.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know what quite happened there, but the fact that he didn't get going immediately, I think he may have tried to get going, then wanted to let the Aston Martin through and may have stalled it there. So, very unfortunate timing for him.
Yes, indeed. So that's going to be... Yeah, that's really dropped him down the order. So that has changed. That is another dynamic change of race this evening here on Racing. Sutiano now pits from the lead. And again, the Apple... Yeah, they've basically upset the apple cart, these drivers. So Whitehead currently running in 5th place ahead of Romanek, and there is Carly Atkins, who has had a second trip through the pit lane and has just got past. That looks to be, was that Hackett? Was that Thomas, I think, or was that? Couldn't really make out who that was. I didn't really catch the number, to be completely fair. But Atkins has a bit of work to do from 16th position, but there's still over 41 minutes and 40 seconds still remaining. Ressa gets to stop go 30 and is serving it as we speak. Gomes gets a drive through. Yesny in the number 78 Javier Race Lab car, as Ed Reverock in the M Sport colours, in the 107, that British racing green, a fantastic colour. It always looks great on a Bentley and on any British racing vehicle. So Reverock now pits. Watching the speed limit. Sutiano still in the pits at the moment, as Reverock now will pull into the pit box and get the mandatory tyre change. So Otti now will go up to, I think that is going to be, so Kun Sabo leads the way in the number 11 and is now making his way through to the far part of the circuit, so through turn 9 and into the left at 10. And this is where it's going to be rather interesting here, Nicholas, because we've seen some drivers leave it right until the last moment, and I think that Kun Sabo is one of those drivers to be doing so.
Yeah, he's one of the guys who's had no trouble with traffic so far. Well, he was in a battle group, but never really lost too much time in that. So overall, I think he was just able to save a little bit of time here and there. He was able to save a bit of fuel here and there, and maybe through that he's just trying to stay out a little bit longer. Of course, his pit stop is going to be the same speed, nevertheless, or the same time, I mean. But of course, Well, saving tires, saving fuel, it's all something that still helps you a little bit, just overall. Especially with that Porsche, which also driven by Arias, who got a little bit close to Palmai there. But yeah, like having a little bit more fuel in the Porsche, of course it's more weight, but it's more weight on the front axle, which you desperately need for the Porsche, of course, to grip at the front.
Yeah, you don't want the front end of that Porsche to be bouncing, as I've noticed that Revrock has got a stop-go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. Cunniff, Harrison and Cox all in the pits at the moment. So Lagertsen has got a 10-second post-race penalty added to his total race time as he's battling away with Stigvort in the 28 McLaren 720S GT3, and Stigvort just literally cuts across the front bumper unceremoniously there. So this is going to be an interesting battle towards it. And you've got Foch in the background. Foch currently running in 10th position overall with 38 minutes and 43 seconds on the clock to go. Cunniff comes out and Cunniff went up the inside, and that was on Stigvort, and Stigvort got turned around. That was a bit messy there.
Yeah, I think just inopportune timing there, and of course not as much spatial awareness as was perhaps needed in that situation. So yeah, bit of a misjudgment here and there, and of course very quickly something like this can happen.
Yes, that's very true. Renaud Hesse currently in the number 69 Mercedes, running 26th position at the minute. But then it looks like there's a driver trying to feverishly get past. And that looks to be possibly Courtney, if I'm very much mistaken. So the drivers still having another 37.5 minutes or so still to go in this race. And this is where the mind games really start. Revrock now drops out of the top 10 as a result of Harley Atkins now going up into 11th position. So the number 2 Lexus making some inroads at the moment. Revrock at the minute could very much, I think, yes, has dropped out of the top 15 and has now exited the pit. Kun Sabo in the pits. Bozo leads from Whitehead and Romanik at the moment. And there's still plenty of this race still to go. There's Coleman Corkery in the number 9. Aston Martin trying to chase down those in front. There is a back marker just up ahead. And there is Sheldon Muscat, currently P7. As there's Alexis trying to unlap itself up the inside of the 710, and that's the number 2. That's Carly Atkins. Pozzo in the pits. So Atkins now, really, if he wants to try, it is the case that Atkins really needs to put in the hot laps.
Yeah, I mean, for him it's going to be very difficult now because, of course, this is a very short lap, and you take around 30 seconds for the pit stop, another, let's be generous, 25 seconds in the pit lane. That's 55 seconds, but of course this is around a 1 minute 45 circuit, so you're still missing around 50 seconds to make up one lap. So I think if Atkins wants to get a bit further up, he will just have to keep up his low-profile stealth abilities that he showed in the first half hour completely up to maximum, and also hope that the hard battling in the top 10 is maybe just going to have 1 or 2 more victims to it.
Yes, indeed. So we still have plenty of this race still to go. Arias still getting very feisty with Palmai, and this is for 14th position. Is that Hackett behind them? Is that Hackett behind them, I'm wondering, or is that possibly Whitehead? Can't really tell. There's so many different liveries at the minute. It's difficult to pick them out. You're trying to keep an eye on what the numbers are doing, and then you sort of think, right, not too sure. I like how that Palmai has got a bit of a James Bond sort of homage on that race number 003 on that Ferrari. Interesting how they can get the numbers to sort of like look like that on these cars nowadays, eh?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, also a bit of a... What one would think, with these sort of Gulf racing colors, oh, that is Martin Ritson. That is the next victim for turn 3.
Oh, dearie me.
Yeah, where did I stop? Number 3, Palmai, with sort of a Gulf racing livery. Normally more familiar with Porsche and Aston Martin, of course. So, with Aston Martin and the 003, it would have been a perfect Bond homage. But in a Ferrari, so little bit of a crossover between car manufacturers, I'd say.
Yes, as we get back to Dan Hackett, who's now got the 270 McLaren of Samuel Harrison closing down on him. Cunniff on Stigford, a 5-second time penalty for the number 41 Honda. That's a real shame for Cunniff. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, he just went in a bit too hot going into that corner, and Stigford was just on the front end of it as Hackett has a bit of a moment coming through turn 1. There is Ashton Cox. And then we go back to Hackett and Harrison. And that, I think, is Corkery just behind them in the number 9, Aston Martin. So Hackett and Harrison battling away. Coming up to 33 minutes and 20 seconds remaining on the clock. The sunlight beginning to fade here at the Hungaroring. The track temperature drops another degree Celsius to 25 degrees. Air temperature 22. Drivers really having to have their wits about them, as that is Harrison letting through Corkery, and Hackett will be shown the blue flags, and he will have to adhere to that. Otherwise, like Sharp, who got disqualified for too many blue flag infringements, Ligeritson also had the same. So Hackett, I think, is just he's got to really keep his eyes out for these blue flags, and they're waving again, because that's another thing. If he keeps ignoring the blue flags and doesn't let Corkery pass quickly, he could be subject to a penalty from race control.
Yeah, that is one of the big issues here. You have to really know how to let people pass quickly. Of course, they're technically all in the same race, so in endurance racing, it would normally be that Corkery and just anyone else lapping other cars, they have to find their way through safely, and the other cars, the cars getting the blue flags, just need to slow down in a predictable manner. But right now, it's a really unfortunate situation for Coleman Corkery, because he's of course trying to not lose time towards Ottaway, and of course Muscat, who's coming up behind him a bit further down the road. But at the same time, he's right in the middle of a battle for position between Hackett and Harrison. So, of course, Hackett can't really slow down all too much, because he wants to keep that little safety gap between himself and Harrison. But at the same time, he has to slow down, because that is blue flags waving, and he has to adhere to that at some point.
Yeah, I think that could... I've got a real feeling in my bones here, Nicholas, that is going to be the case. But in some respects, this is going to... I think in some respects, you've got to look at it from also a different standpoint. Okay, yes, the blue flags are waving at Dan Hackett. But think of it this way. Corkery... Right, okay, now he's saying to him, get out of my way, sunshine. I need to get through. As... Oh, Hackett drifts it wide. And that allows Corkery the opportunity. He needs to get past. And if Hackett had gone any wider... Oh, Hackett's losing. He could very much have Harrison up the inside of him, going through the corner, and he does. Harrison trying to keep it towards the outside. And I don't think Hackett was best pleased about the fact of how quickly Harrison caught up to him. And Harrison looking towards the outside of turn 14. So this war is not quite over yet, as Harrison gets a bit of a tank slapper as the rear end breaks to the left-hand side, but Harrison keeps in the slipstream of the Mercedes of Hackett, as Corkery now will start pushing and look to get further towards the rest of the top four ahead of him. Again, another run wide from Hackett, and Harrison gets up the inside. Oh, and now Hackett trying to return the favour through turn 2. Mercedes gets the upper hand. but Harrison could keep it planted through turn 3. He does. Runs Hackett wide. Hackett bangs door panels with Harrison. Up towards the left-hander at turn 4. Hackett has the line. Back up into 16th place goes Dan Hackett. And Sam Harrison will have to wait and bide his time for another opportunity. But it could come sooner rather than later. But Hackett, once again, into the turn 6-7 chicane, keeps the Mercedes on point at this particular moment in time.
Yeah, really good to see this very hard elbows out, but overall I'd still say, very fair battle. And Samuel Harrison really, really well at pushing the absolute pressure onto Hackett there, because you can see Hackett's running wider and wider, and that is the next drive-through penalty for track limits.
Oh dear, they say that lightning does strike twice. It struck thrice for Dan Hackett, and that is going to give Sam Harrison 16th position. And I bet Hackett, yeah, he's going to serve it right now. I bet you Dan Hackett is I think the word frustrated is a complete and utter understatement for the number 20 driver in the Mercedes. That's a real shame for Dan Hackett, and that has deprived us of a fantastic battle. As now, Lukas Romanek in the 332. Aston Martin Vantage V8 GT3 currently running in second position behind Luke Whitehead. And as they say, you haven't talked much about the leader. He's doing a pretty good job, and he's been running rather consistently. He's been running in the 144s. He's switched in the casual races from Lexus to the endurance races in Mercedes, and it has paid dividends. But then we come back to Gergely Kunsabo and Pozzo in the 710 Lamborghini. And they're coming through into turn 2 and into the right at turn 3, and then the blast up to turn 4, and then the right-hander at turn 5. And at the moment, Tom Hossaway has been doing a really, really good job in 4th position, but I don't think has managed to make inroads onto Mihai Sutianu. But this battle is still waging on as they go through into the chicane, turn 6 and 7. Nice and neatly does it by both Kunsabo, and Pozzo gets a really good run out of the chicane into the left-hander at turn 8. Sheldon Muscat now is getting side by side with Littlewood. So Littlewood, a little bit of fisticuffs there, a bit of panel banging, possibly. It's now Littlewood back up the inside of Muscat. He's not going to let that lie. Oh, no. But Muscat gets to run back through into turn 14. So 2 Mercedes at each other's doors. And this is going to get really, really spicy. So Sheldon Muscat up into 6th position in the number 14 Mercedes, the GT Omega RPM esports driver, just ahead of Marcus Littlewood. As we've got 26.5 minutes still remaining on the clock. Gergely Kunsabo and Pozzo in the 710. Lamborghini still battling away. Just really, really good racing all the way through, and we've had 2/3 of this race completed. We are now into the last 26.25 minutes here on World Pro Racing. Don't forget, if you want to join our community, head to our official website to register at worldproracing.com.
Well, and seeing all this amazing racing action that we have here, I think that's, by itself, enough incentive to join in on the fun, and that is Sheldon Scott Muscat just missing his braking point for the turn 6 and 7 chicane, and that's Marcus Littlewood going, well, not quite what I was expecting, but it's a surprise to be sure, and a welcome one at that.
I think he's probably gone, oh, thank you very much, Sheldon, such a gentleman, opening the door for me. Well, the thing is that these drivers are pushing like absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. It's been rather enthralling all the way through this race so far. There's Carly Atkins, and he is currently running in P11 in the number 2 Lexus. We saw him battling as high up as the top 5 in the early stages of this race, but 2 pit stops for the Lexus driver has really compromised his chance at possibly not just a podium, but maybe even going for the victory. Oh, well, there was a Ferrari just in the way there. As, oh, that was Palmai that's just gone off, the latest victim of turn 3. Oh, and he was right on the back bumper of Arias there. So that's a real shame for Palmai, but hopefully he'll get himself back out on the circuit before Samuel Harrison gets an opportunity to get past. And there is Palmai. And there is a Porsche just behind. And that is probably one of the back markers. So Palmai, I think he has to count his lucky stars on that one.
Yeah, luck in, how do you say it best? Glück in Unglück. So luck in bad luck, as we say in German, for Martin Palmai. Not too hard of a hit, it seems, as well, because there's no real big visible damage. So luckily he can just keep carrying on in his drive currently. But Enzi Hisne, he has to count lucky stars as well now, because he needs all of the power he can get getting past Arias, or actually keeping Arias behind him, which he's failed to do so far. But of course, long straight, and the Mercedes loved those.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. When you can put the pedal to the metal and go for it. Isni trying to close up on Arias in the number 15 Porsche through into turn 1, into turn 1A. And then into the next left-hander at turn 2. And there is a Ferrari just behind, and I think that is the 3-3. I'm wondering if that might be Sutianu behind. There's Palmai still in 15th position at the moment. So the drivers still trying to do their best, keep their eyeballs on stalks, as Lagertsen and Gomes nearly come to blows, and that was Martin Ritson just behind, and he was the one that we saw a few moments ago going off the circuit.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I think you were about to say we've got a drive-through, haven't we?
Also, yes, David Christie, but we also have a few last-minute pit stops going on here, I think. For Kylo, Gomez, and also I think that was Cox coming out. But I wasn't quite sure who the last one was, because just as I was about to say, one of the symbols just disappeared already.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about timing it to perfection, and it is a strategic game of chess. You don't know how long the drivers are going to keep the tyres for, how long they fueled it for. These drivers have really, really maxed out the opportunity as best as they can, as Martin Ritson in the number 25 Ferrari, running 23rd, ahead of Lagertsen in the 24 Lexus. So Stig Voort in the number 28 McLaren, who's been in the trenches and been in the... not had his fair share of luck. And I think probably the Glück and Unglück, as you were saying, is sort of like what we would call in English trials and tribulations. So you have ups, you have downs, you have peaks and troughs. Oh, that's getting a bit feisty there. Now there is Ferrari that was just trying to get past, and I think that was Sutianu trying to get past Arias, and Arias was like saying, "What are you doing? No, you're not getting past." Well, actually, it was not for position. The biggest thing is that at the moment, Whitehead still leads with just over 20 minutes and 35 seconds on the clock remaining. Romanek, Sutianu, Ottaway, Corkery, Littlewood, Muscat, Kunsabo, Pozzo, Foch, Atkins, Thomas. Arias now up into 13th ahead of Isni and Palmai. So a lot of drivers still able to keep their cars on the black stuff as best they can, as Luke Whitehead now about to lap Martin Ritson very, very shortly. Track temperature again has dropped as the tree shadows through turn 2, a bit more prominent this time. Track temperature now 24 degrees Celsius, air temperature 21 degrees Celsius, as Luke Whitehead has pretty much been unstoppable from lights out until this particular moment in time.
Yeah, definitely once again a very strong drive by him. No mistakes whatsoever. It was a bit feisty at the start. He got a bit overwhelmed by Ruff, but as soon as turn 1 was over, put the pedal to the metal and just stay calm. He did that perfectly, and well, the fact that we haven't had him in picture very much, it's just well, of course for the spectators it's a little bit like, oh, what's the leader doing? What's happening to him? Why are you never showing him? Of course, that is one of the thoughts going through the through the spectators' heads, but just staying clean and, well, under the cover, that's usually the best thing that can happen to you, because that means your race is calm, your race doesn't have any upsets, and you're doing everything right.
Very true. It's about not panicking under pressure, especially if you're trying to chase somebody down. You want to make sure those laps are calm, mitigated, consistent, and metronomic. You want to be on that edge of nigh on perfection. I mean, no racing driver is perfect. Let's be completely honest here. No racing driver is perfect, but they will try their damnedest to get the perfect lap in. And at the moment, Lukas Romanek currently running in the 1:45.6s. Tom Ottey in the 1:45.7s. Looks like Tom Ottey has got a... looks like Tom Ottey has got a 5-second time penalty for a little bit of a contact with Palmai a bit earlier on. So that will add 5 seconds to his time, his total race time at the end of this race. So 18 minutes still to go, and Ottaway still trying to do his best to close up on Mihai Sutianu in the 334 Ferrari. And it's getting to that point now, Nicholas, where the mistakes could start to creep in.
Yeah, it's been, well, almost, over 70 minutes by now. And, well, the big danger when you're driving a circuit like this, you're constantly just driving and driving and driving. You fall into a routine. You get a little bit of tunnel vision after some time, even with some traffic ahead, you just get the same rhythm in. And as soon as you lose attention, like there it was perhaps, that's when mistakes can happen. And, well, I think that was the best example, and a bit of indirect commentator's curse. I'm really sorry for that.
Well, I mean, that's where the mistakes are coming in. We've got just under 17 minutes still to go, and the drivers still have to push like crazy. Okay, they're going to be tired, they're going to be mentally and physically drained after this, but it will be those that have been calm and concise, as Foch in the number 8 Ferrari is currently still running in 10th position, but that looks like possibly Carly Atkins closing in on him in the number 2. Gregory Kunsabo is still in 8th position and has a backmarker Mercedes just behind. And it's been a good run from Kunsabo at the minute. However, there's still plenty of this race still to go. And anything, as we both know, Nicholas, can happen in racing.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And, well, what could you say other than it's unpredictable? It's, well, unlike a few other forms of entertainment, it's completely unscripted. And, yeah, I think that is the most entertaining part about sim racing as well, because you have the biggest similarity out of any esports with the real thing. So, when you play FIFA, for example, of course, I could never replicate the skills of a pro player there. But if you're good at FIFA, it doesn't mean you're good at real football. And I think the similarities between real racing and sim racing, for example, as we had numerous sim drivers now, for example, James Baldwin or Rudy Van Buren, he went from sim racing to the very, very big boys. into GT3 cars, into F1 simulators, and well, now the Porsche GT3 Cup. There's definitely a similarity there, and I'd say out of all esports, the sports part of that is the most true for sim racing, since you actually have to put a lot of effort, a lot of force into these wheels, as you of course have force feedback of different strengths and all that.
I think other drivers that we need to mention here, Lucas Ordonez, who won GT Academy, as did Jan, who now has a career running as a Works Nissan driver, a Nismo driver in Super GT GT500 in the Nissan R35 GTR. Oh, that looked nasty. Palmai went absolutely scathing up the inside into turn one, and I think Corkery might have just come out of that worst off. But Palmai, he had absolutely no business doing that at all. I'm really sorry to say that.
Yeah, that was very, very late on the break. Far too late to make sure. And yeah, nasty crash to be sure. And I think that was basically the figurative example of averting our gaze to look away from the horror. But that is Palmai's car there, completely stopped now. And I think that would be his race over.
Yep, yellow flags are out. Palmai's race has gone. It was going so well for the number 3 Ferrari, who was running up as high as 14th, 15th place during this race, and that is going to drop him like a proverbial stone. And Carly Atkins running, he completes the top 10 positions at the moment. So Whitehead still leads with 13 minutes and 10 seconds still to go. And there is the number 557. British driver. Romanek second. Sotianu, Ottaway, Littlewood, Corkery, Muscat, Kunsabo, Foch, and Atkins. That is your top 10, followed by Thomas Pozo, Arias, Isney, Harrison, Rivok, Hackett, Cunniff, Palmai drops, and now is in the pits. So that will drop the number 3 Ferrari outside of the top 20. And here on World Pro Racing, we have weekly casual races, special events and championships on both PC and PS4 platforms. If you want to register, head to worldproracing.com and you can find us on our relevant social media channels. There is Samuel Harrison, and he is currently running now in what is effectively 14th position. Ashton Cox has got a Porsche just behind him. That could be Tom Ottaway, if I'm very much mistaken. And Ottaway getting a real good turn of pace there, and that is the case. And David Christie just up ahead of them. Just under 12 minutes to go. And Cox is... No.
Yeah, there was a little bit of too much fighting, I think, on the back marker.
Yeah, I think so. I think I was wondering if Cox was just trying to test the waters there, you know, dip his little pinky toe in there and see how it would fare, and then Tom Ottaway was having absolutely none of that. So just under 11.5 minutes remaining. And it still remains to be seen who is going to have the upper hand, but Whitehead, just like the GT3 casual race on Tuesday night in a Lexus, he literally got away, scarpered away into the distance. He's done the same here tonight. Lucas Romanek and Mihai Sotianu are top 3 at the moment, representing 3 different manufacturers. So Mercedes leads Aston Martin, leads Ferrari, with Tom Ottaway in 4th, making it 4 different brands in the top 4, representing Stuttgart's very finest in the form of Porsche. Then it's Littlewood, Corkery, Muscat. We've had Palmai has had a disqualification as a result of that accident and has been put into the pits. Unsportsmanlike behaviour has been deemed by race control. So Palmai not taking any further participation in this race, which has just over 10 minutes to go. Server time now 6:22 p.m. Track temperature now has dropped from around what was 31 degrees Celsius. It's dropped 8 degrees over the course of the last 80 or so minutes to 23 degrees Celsius. Track temperature still at air temperature is 21 degrees Celsius. Track still considered as optimum. It has been sunshine all the way through this race, and Luke Whitehead, Nicolas, has been the class of the field once again here in GT3 action.
Yeah, after the last couple of races, I think at Suzuka it just really all clicked into place for him, and he just became a little bit more confident. I think that is what he was mainly missing in the races before, and he could finally put that all together now.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. As the blue flags continue to wave around the circuit, some of the drivers having to mind their P's and Q's. They will get penalised if they do consistently infringe on blue flags. And this is where it counts the most. Because obviously with the faster drivers coming through, like Luke Whitehead, you're going to have a lot of drivers having to watch their rear view mirrors as Ronek goes a little bit wide. And that would have been coming through the chicane and going in towards turn 8. And that's Nathaniel Thomas, who's recovered to get up into 11th position. And Bozo in the 710 Lamborghini Huracan is about a couple of cars adrift. Well, he's actually one car adrift. So Thomas will now have to let Whitehead through. He's going to pull towards the outside of the circuit. Whitehead darts towards the inside. And now this means that the battle for 11th position with just over 8 minutes remaining means that Nathaniel Thomas does have the advantage as Martin Ritson trying to go up the inside there of Sam Harrison. That's not a battle for position there, Martin, I'm afraid. Going to have to hang back. And, Harrison currently rounding out the top 14 positions. And Ritson has had a bit of a recovery drive up to 21st position in the number 25 Ferrari 488 GT3.
Yeah, overall, Ritson, he was one of the big victims of turn 3, but it's looking up for him, especially since Ressa ahead of him just got a drive-through penalty. I think once again in nice consideration of the track limits. And another person who's had a great recovery drive, Sheldon Muscat, after that terrible collision in turn 2 with the back marker. And yeah, 7th place. Of course, he started a little bit further up ahead on the second row, but a 7th place after a collision like that, resulting damage like that, that's definitely not something to be ashamed of.
I completely agree. I mean, Sheldon Muscat, we know he's a regular. Oh, Ritson in the walls again. Oh, and that was Cox being punted to the left-hand side, front end of the Aston Martin. That's drama. It's 6.5 minutes remaining on the clock. Poor old Martin Ritson. He was doing so well up until then. I'm wondering if he got a little bit of a touch from behind, because otherwise that Ferrari would not have gone sideways like it did. So, but then Cox getting, everyone trying to. It was like everyone scrambling to get around Martin Ritson, and then that's when the carambolage happened, and Cox got punted to the outside and hit the barriers quite hard there. Yeah, and well, overall, of course, it's quite a shock when something like that happens. Of course, you get the warning, yellow flag, slow car ahead, or something along those lines, depending on how the car is positioned, if it's stationary or just slow. And yeah, in the case of Ritson, he was just behind. You get over this crest, you get over this blind corner, and you just can't see anything. Get over there with still a solid 200 kilometers an hour, and suddenly there's just a car on the racing line. How do you react? Yeah, you just have to try and have cat-like reflexes and take avoiding action when the situation presents itself. And we just as soon as it came around, it's about to end very, very shortly, as we have Just 5 minutes and 10 seconds of this race still to go. Nathaniel Thomas still running in 11th position behind Carly Atkins in the number 2 Lexus, who is a little bit further up the road. There is Ed Revrock in the Bentley Team M Sport Continental GT3 in the number 107. He's currently running at the top 16 positions ahead of Dan Hackett. Then we've got Cunliffe, Cox, Ressa, Stigford, Ritson, Gomes, Lagritson, David Christie running at the top 25. And again, the consistency of Luke Whitehead just speaks volumes. He's been running in the low 145s for the last few laps. And he's just kept his nose clean. Yannick Horf got the jump on him because of the shorter gearing of the Porsche going into turn 1 for the first time. But Whitehead was just able to weather the storm and came out smelling of roses.
Well, yeah, overall, I'd say the top 3, all of them, they did a very good race. Romanek, of course, won't be quite so happy, and of course, Suteanu not as happy as well. Probably wanted to fight a little bit more with Whitehead, but either way, you know, all of them, they just did their best. They kept clean as much as they could, and Suteanu actually with the extreme undercut attempt, which actually worked out as well, since, you know, when... Oh, wait, actually, sorry, no, that was Foch, which actually also worked out. But Suteanu a little bit later still worked out up to 3rd place. I think he was in 5th for the most of that battle until he actually went for that undercut and, yeah, just did the perfect timing, came out without any big battles to be had besides his regular battles, and just kept it safe until this last stage here.
So Dan Hackett being closed in on by Colin Cunliffe, and the thing is that Cunliffe has a 5-second time penalty, so even if he gets away from Hackett, which is very difficult considering the sheer low-down grunt that Mercedes has under that bonnet, I think it's going to be rather interesting. As Cunliffe trying for the move on Hackett, and that was very brave going through turn 2. Oh, bit of a back-end step out there from Hackett as well, going through into turn 3, then into turn 4, into the right at 5. Hackett was a very, very lucky driver there, because when the back-end stepped out on that Mercedes, that was going one way or the other in terms of the way that the back-end was stepping out. But nevertheless, Dan Hackett absolutely saved that one like a good one.
Yeah, finally some good luck coming his way after his 3 drive-thrus with the track cut warnings. But Colin Cunliffe also not really willing to just slow down yet, not really willing to give up, and that's once again Hackett running quite wide, not slowing down, and I have to say, in his place, I would be a little bit more careful there right now.
Yeah, definitely, I would agree there, because we've got what he doesn't want before the end of the race is a drive turned into a time penalty post-race. So he's really, really got to watch his P's and Q's, as Dan Hackett in the latter stages. 1 minute and 19 seconds still to go here at Hungaroring for the first GT3 casual race, totaling 90 minutes with a mandatory pit stop. So, leader on the final lap. Leader is on the final lap. And Luke Whitehead has just under 2.722 miles. Around 4 kilometres still to go. As the timer fast ticks away. The sunlight definitely fading. And this is where we have to not just celebrate everyone that gets to the finish. We do have to celebrate who is our victor in this 90-minute race. And it has been absolutely brilliant. A stalwart performance. Like a modern-day gladiator from Luke Whitehead in the 5.57. We'll go on board with him now. And he's now going through the chicane for the final time. So turn 6 and 7, into 8, into the right-hander at 9 before the slight left kink at turn 10. Go round towards the outside, accelerates, back in wanting to step out the tyres, getting a little bit ropey towards the edge of the final bit of the race as the timer now officially hits 0 here on World Pro Racing. A couple more corners remain, and Luke Whitehead in the 557 Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 comes round turn 14 for the final time, and it's been a double delight. Once in the casual 30-minute sprint race, and now the 90 minutes of Hungaroring. You can declare Luke Whitehead as your victor, as Lukas Romanek in the 332 Aston Martin powers out of the final corner to take the runner-up spot, with Mihai Sutianu in the 334 Ferrari rounding out the top 3 for our podium this evening here on the GT3 Casual Race, the 90 minutes of Hungaroring. And it looks like Tom Ottaway will come across the line, and he will take a welcome 4th place finish. Marcus Littlewood takes 5th in his 88 Mercedes. But Luke Whitehead, what a dominant display here at the Hungaroring.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic drive from him. The Mercedes drivers all very strong this race. But what has to be said as well, Marcus Littlewood's come back from a drive-through to finish in P5, so quite impressive from him as well. But of course, just generally from the top 5, from all of them, very impressive drive, keeping it clean and just, well, running it to the end without any big trouble and without any bigger collisions, or just staying out of trouble, which is, to say it very nicely at Hungaroring, very, very difficult in such a race with such a big field.
Especially when we had nigh on 40 cars going into turn 1 for the first time earlier on, around about an hour and a half ago. But there is your race winner, Luke Whitehead in the 557 Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3. He is our victor for the casual race, the 90 minutes of Hungaroring. What a great display, with 3 different brands represented in the top 3: Mercedes, Aston Martin, and of course the prancing horse simply known as Ferrari. But this is going to really give Luke Whitehead a big amount of confidence going into next week, when we have our first GT3 casual race at Imola, as Luke Whitehead now makes his way into the pits, and I'm sure that behind the wheel he will be absolutely grinning like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, he was already very, very happy last week when he had won his first race, as he said. And now, of course, we're going to have a few interviews as well, if I'm correct. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hear what Luke Whitehead has to say this time.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's one of those things that a driver can be built on confidence. And let's have a chat with him. Luke Whitehead, many, many congratulations. The winner of the GT3 casual race this week at Suzuka. And now you've taken the 90 minutes of Hungaroring this evening. How do you feel?
I'm absolutely ecstatic. Really, really happy with how everything went. Quali was really good. Pace was just really good in the race. A couple of little errors, but over the moon. Absolutely over the moon.
I mean, your consistency from being able to switch from the Lexus in the sprint racing to the Mercedes in the endurance racing. What was the biggest catalyst of changing from Lexus to Mercedes? Because you've got to have a lot of confidence in the car, but also the low end torque from that engine when you power out of the corners is actually quite a good characteristic, and something that's quite a good bit of arsenal when it comes to the Mercedes, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. I think, well, it was just overall more drivable, in my opinion, from what I tested. I did a lot of testing today, particularly with the Merc and the Lexus and a lot of other different cars, and I found that the Merc was just a lot more drivable in terms of the traction was really good, and it rode the curbs really well. I think Sector 2 was probably my strongest part of the track, and looking at the data in quali, and that's where you need to use the curbs. So yeah, just really happy with my choice, and yeah, couldn't be happier with the adaptation.
Well done, Luke. Congratulations on a sterling effort. Absolutely brilliant this evening. Nicholas, I think we'll hand over the next interview to you. I think we might have Mihai Sotianu with us here in the interview booth.
Mihai, fantastic race from you. Definitely caught up in some battles early on in the race where you probably didn't want to get involved in, just saw a few of the guys in front a bit out of your reach, but strategy and consistency brought you back up the order. How do you feel right now?
I feel great. Yeah, I have had some incidents, but I try to get in front.
Yeah, and one of the more irregular choices, I think, was we saw people choosing the new Ferrari GT3 Evo and you taking the older model. Is that just because of preference?
This car, with this car, I played a lot, and the new car was unknown to me.
Okay, so just familiarity over the new upgrade. And yeah, once again, just congratulations to the podium. Really good, consistent drive. And yeah, any final words that you want to say? Like, were there any dangerous moments for you?
There were some dangerous moments, but I passed the cars and get in front.
Right, thank you very much, Mihai. Back to you, Alex.
Okay, well, that looks like we are going to be wrapping things up here on... Well, hang on, just a second. Looks like we might have... we might have our second place finisher. Lucas, congratulations on second place in the Aston Martin. 3 different brands in the top 3. Just tell us about the race from your perspective after what was a very, very interesting start earlier on.
Yeah, like the start, it was quite hectic. About 6 of us in a train just trying to pull away from the guys behind. And then there were a few incidents ahead which promoted me to P3. And then Littlewood got a drive-through penalty which promoted me to P2. And from there I just kept pushing until the stop and decided not to change my brakes. So we would have a quicker stop and try and go for Whitehead. But when we came out we were actually really close. And then in the end, like the newer brakes and just overall pace showed, and he managed to get the win.
Yeah, I think the Aston Martin looked to be a very, very good package around the Hungaroring. But obviously, you must be happy with the second place finish, despite Luke Whitehead rushing away into the distance.
Yeah, I'm over the moon, really. Like my first race in World Pro Racing, and P2 is like better than I could have hoped for. So, yeah.
Well done, Lucas. Congratulations on your runner-up finish this evening, and thank you very much for taking part.
Thank you.
Well, Nicholas, to close things off, I mean, that was a pretty intensely filled, packed 90 minutes of racing at the Hungaroring. It's just a sign of things to come, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it was the biggest grid race we had so far on one of the 2 tightest circuits in the simulator. So considering everything, it was chaotic a little bit, but nevertheless, it made for some good racing and a very good entertainment.
Well, as always, Nicholas, it's a pleasure to work along. Thank you very much. A big thank you to you all watching at home on TVM Sport in Malta, esports television, and motorsport.tv, along with the World Pro Racing Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live streams. Don't forget, we've got some interesting content coming up over the next week. We head to Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari next Tuesday night at 20:30 Central European Time for the GT3 casual race. And then we head to the halfway point of the World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series, taking place at Brands Hatch Grand Prix next Friday at 8:30 p.m. Central European Time. We'd like to thank Melita, who have powered the stream, and also our sponsors and partners. Visit Malta.com, Gaming Malta, HyperX, Thrustmaster, and of course, AMD. So on behalf of myself and Nicholas Hilbrand, this is Alex Goldschmidt signing off from World Pro Racing. We'll see you again next time. Have a great weekend.
This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.